Welcome, listeners, to what might be the most important conversation about female sexuality you'll ever hear. I'm your host, Zoya Sinclair, and this is Sexual Chemistry, where we dive deep into the fascinating, complex, and often misunderstood world of all things sexual. Now comes the big word, female orgasm. Forget everything you think you know. Forget what you've seen in movies, what you've heard in locker rooms, and yes, even what you might have learned from mainstream education. Because today we're going to explore the real science, the actual anatomy, and the genuine techniques that can transform intimate experiences forever. This isn't just another sex talk. This is Pleasure University, where we're going to deconstruct decades of myths, explore the intricate landscape of female arousal, and provide you with knowledge that could revolutionize your understanding of pleasure itself. Curious about human connection, pleasure, and relationship dynamics? Download Scoob and enjoy a wealth of podcast channels from emotions to intimacy to keep you inspired. Download the Scoob app on the App Store or Play Store and explore stories and insights that challenge what you know about intimacy and well-being. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through the most sensitive, most misunderstood, and most amazing aspects of human sexuality. Let's start with some truth bombs that might shock you. Ready? For decades, there's been this pervasive assumption that because men typically have orgasms during penis and vagina intercourse, women should naturally achieve orgasms through this same method. When women don't experience orgasms during intercourse, it's often perceived as a sign that something is wrong with them. Here's the reality check. Research indicates that only about 30% of women reliably reach orgasm through intercourse alone. Let me repeat that, only 30%. That means 70% of women may orgasm infrequently, rarely, or not at all during intercourse, yet they are entirely healthy and completely normal. Think about that for a moment. We've built an entire sexual culture around a method that works for less than a third of women. It's like designing all cars for left-handed people and then wondering why 70% of the population struggles to drive comfortably. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Women can achieve orgasm through a variety of methods beyond intercourse: manual sex, oral sex, vibrators, breast stimulation, and many other forms of sexual activity. Even if they don't orgasm during intercourse, their capacity to orgasm through these other means is perfectly normal and healthy. Another massive misconception involves the connection between mental and physical arousal. For men, there's typically a clear link between their mental arousal and physical arousal. An erect penis usually indicates they're turned on. We mistakenly assumed women work the same way. But here's the truth. Many women experience what's known as arousal non-concordance, where their genital response, being wet or dry, doesn't necessarily align with their mental state of arousal. A woman can be mentally aroused but not physically wet, or she can be physically aroused but not mentally interested. This discrepancy is completely normal and doesn't indicate any dysfunction whatsoever. And let's talk about desire itself. While men often experience spontaneous sexual desire, that urge that seems to come out of nowhere, many women experience responsive desire. This means their desire emerges in response to erotic stimuli or situations, rather than appearing spontaneously. There's absolutely nothing wrong with responsive desire. It's just a different pathway to the same destination. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of female anatomy, because understanding the landscape is crucial to navigating it successfully. First, let's talk about the clitoris. And no, I don't mean just that little button at the top. The clitoris is actually a complex wishbone-shaped organ that's mostly internal. What you can see and touch externally is just the tip of the iceberg, literally the glands of a much larger structure. The internal clitoris has legs that extend several inches into the body, and it has bulbs, large teardrop-shaped organs full of erectile tissue that sit under the inner lips of the vulva. During arousal, this entire structure can enlarge by 50 to 300%. That's right. Women have erections too, they're just internal. This is why many women enjoy having their mons pubis, that soft area above the vulva, touched and massaged. You're actually stimulating the internal clitoris. And those women who enjoy firm pressure under their inner lips, they're stimulating those sensitive clitoral bulbs. Here's a mind-blowing fact. The clitoris contains approximately 8,000 nerve endings. To put that in perspective, the penis has about 4,000. The clitoris exists for one purpose and one purpose only: pleasure. It's the only organ in the human body designed purely for enjoyment. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the G-spot. Technically, there's no specific anatomical structure called the G-spot, but there is something called the urethral sponge. This cylindrical tissue surrounds the urethra and is located above the vagina toward the front of the body. It's comparable to the male prostate and actually develops from the same embryonic tissue. To locate it, insert a finger with the palm facing upward into the vagina and make a "come here" gesture toward the front wall. When aroused, you can feel its length, about 2 to 3 inches, and its ridged texture. But here's the crucial part. The urethral sponge isn't separate from the clitoral network. It's all connected. The clitoral head, shaft, legs, and the urethral sponge work together as one complex system. Some women derive immense pleasure from urethral sponge stimulation, while others find it overwhelming unless other areas are thoroughly aroused first. And yes, some women ejaculate from this stimulation while others don't. Both experiences are completely normal. Understanding female arousal is like understanding a beautiful, complex symphony. It has movements, crescendos, and requires proper timing. Let me walk you through the 4 distinct stages of female arousal that can help you understand this incredible process. Stage 1. Tumescence. This is where the magic begins. Tumescence can start the moment a woman feels the urge for sex or within seconds of erotic stimulation. During this phase, her heart rate increases, breathing speeds up, and blood pressure rises. The limbic system, the brain's emotional center, triggers a cascade of neurochemicals that amplify interest in sex. The release of nitric oxide increases blood flow to the genitals, causing both the outer and inner labia to swell and become more sensitive. The clitoris engorges to maximize its surface area, vaginal lubrication begins, and the vaginal canal starts to expand and lengthen. This increased blood flow can also cause the breasts to swell and nipples to harden. Stage 2. The orgasmic plateau. As sexual stimulation continues, everything intensifies. Heart rate, breathing, and blood pressure keep rising. The increased blood flow can cause a flush that colors the face, chest, or abdomen. The labia intensify in color from pale to darker hues. Here's where it gets really interesting. The vaginal opening actually narrows while the area near the cervix expands. The brain's pleasure centers become more active while anxiety-related regions become less active. Neurochemicals like dopamine and epinephrine increase, making the clitoris hypersensitive and causing it to retract under its hood. Now, here's a crucial piece of advice. Don't rush through this stage. Lingering in the orgasmic plateau phase, think of it as being between a 4 and 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, offers significant benefits. Spending more time here helps produce more oxytocin and nitric oxide, which flush out cortisol and can improve menstrual cycles, fertility, immune function, and create stronger connections with partners. Try a technique called edging, bringing arousal close to climax and then backing away, staying between levels 4 and 8 for about 20 minutes. Practicing this twice a week can yield incredible benefits and lead to more satisfying sexual experiences. Stage 3. Climax. This is the peak moment when signals from the cerebellum instruct muscles to tighten and release in the rhythmic contractions we call orgasm. But remember, this is just one type of climax, and the journey to get here is just as important as the destination itself. Stage 4. The refractory period. Unlike men, who typically experience a rapid loss of erection and enter a refractory period where they can't achieve another erection, women's genitals take much longer to return to their normal state, typically 5 to 10 minutes. This is why multiple orgasms are not only possible but quite common for women. Let's talk about why focusing on clitoral stimulation is absolutely crucial, and why this knowledge is revolutionary for sexual satisfaction. Here's a statistic that will blow your mind. Between 88 and 99% of women don't include penetration as part of their solo pleasure routines. Those who do incorporate penetration almost always combine it with clitoral stimulation. When women pleasure themselves, the vast majority concentrate exclusively on their clitoris using vibrators, fingers, pillows, and other means of external stimulation. The result? Over 94% of women achieve orgasm through solo activities. Compare this to partnered sex involving penetration, where 78% of women report orgasm difficulties. The difference? In solo and lesbian sex, the priority is clitoral stimulation. But when penetration becomes involved, it often becomes the central activity, leading to decreased focus on the clitoris. This explains why women tend to experience more orgasms when engaging in sexual activities with other women compared to men. When two women are together, their primary focus is often on stimulating each other's clitorises. Penetration is considered optional and only introduced if it enhances arousal. The solution isn't to eliminate penetration, it's to make both penetration and clitoral stimulation equally valued components of sexual activity. We need to close the pleasure gap by equalizing internal stimulation for one partner and external clitoral stimulation for the other. Now, let's address a crucial anatomical fact. Expecting a woman to achieve orgasm purely from intercourse is like expecting a man to reach climax while giving oral sex to his partner. The most sensitive part of the anatomy isn't receiving direct stimulation. The clitoris, not the vagina, is the female equivalent to the male penis. Both the clitoris and penis contain erectile tissue and become engorged during arousal. The difference is that men experience an external erection while women experience an internal one. The clitoral bulbs straddle the vaginal opening, which explains why a small number of women can achieve orgasm from penetration alone. The thrusting might stimulate these engorged bulbs. But here's the key insight. Studies show that greater distances between a woman's clitoral glands and vaginal opening correlate with reduced likelihood of orgasm from intercourse alone. There's even a rule of thumb. If the distance exceeds about 2.5 centimeters, roughly the length from the tip of your thumb to the first knuckle, the likelihood of orgasm from penetrative sex decreases significantly. This isn't about inadequacy or dysfunction, it's simple biology. Understanding this can free both partners from unrealistic expectations and open up a world of more effective and satisfying techniques. Let's explore some fascinating territory that often gets overlooked in discussions of female pleasure: the incredible sensitivity and orgasmic potential of breasts. Breasts hold a significant role in human sexuality, both visually and physically. The sensitivity of breasts varies greatly based on individual differences, physical state, and emotional mood. Here's something that might surprise you. Breast size has absolutely no correlation with sensitivity. Some smaller breasts are incredibly sensitive, while some larger ones might not respond much at all. Breasts can respond differently to various types of stimulation. Some might not react regardless of overall sexual responsiveness, while others may be highly sensitive to light touches or even firmer handling. Effective methods include spiraling the nipple with a tongue, soft kneading with hands, gentle biting, and light sucking. But here's where it gets really interesting. Orgasms achieved through breast stimulation can be profoundly satisfying and are often described as round, similar to a full orgasm felt deeply within the body. This isn't just foreplay. For some women, this can be a complete sexual experience in itself. For couples where the woman has sufficiently large breasts, there's something called intermammary intercourse, which can serve as a satisfying alternative to vaginal intercourse. This involves the woman lying partially flat while her partner kneels astride her. Either partner can hold the breasts together, encasing the shaft rather than stimulating the head directly. This can be explored in various positions, lying head to tail, woman on top, or sitting postures. The key is experimentation to find what works best for both partners. And yes, climaxing between the breasts can be equally satisfying for both parties. The important takeaway here is that pleasure pathways are diverse and individual. What works for one person might not work for another, and that's perfectly normal. The goal is exploration, communication, and finding what brings the most delight to enhance the overall sexual experience. Now let's dive into one of the most fascinating aspects of female sexuality: the capacity for multiple orgasms. And before you ask, no, this isn't some mythical superpower, it's a natural biological capability that most women possess. Here's the science. It's notably easier for a woman to experience her second orgasm compared to her first. This is because her genitals remain engorged with blood, and her body continues to be suffused with the potent chemicals associated with sexual activity. As one researcher beautifully described it, while it may take many minutes to reach the first orgasmic peak, subsequent ones come more effortlessly. A woman doesn't need to revert to a pre-arousal baseline before ascending to the next height. She can glide on waves of pleasure like a raptor riding thermals. But here's where many people get confused. Many men believe that a woman's ability to experience multiple orgasms is an inherent trait unique to her, independent of their involvement. This is a crucial misunderstanding. Research from the University of Wisconsin discovered that women who were multi-orgasmic often had partners who delayed their own orgasms until after the women had experienced their first. This suggests that most women have the potential for multiple orgasms, and a significant part of this process depends on their partner's approach. If someone can guide a woman to her first orgasm, facilitating subsequent ones should be considerably easier. Many women miss out on multiple orgasms for the same reason they might miss their initial orgasm: inadequate clitoral stimulation and insufficient patience from their partners. Here's proof of this potential. The renowned sex researchers Masters and Johnson found that some women could attain as many as 50 consecutive orgasms with a vibrator. This remarkable capacity suggests that women aren't engaging in extraordinary practices. They're simply giving themselves the precise stimulation necessary. The biological basis for multiple orgasms lies in how women experience the resolution phase. Unlike men, who rapidly lose erections and enter a refractory period where they can't achieve another erection, women's genitals take significantly longer to return to normal, typically 5 to 10 minutes. The clitoris also lacks the specialized mechanism found in the penis that helps retain blood, which explains this extended capability. To guide a woman to her second orgasm and beyond, return to foreplay activities, kissing, embracing, and gentle touching. These actions help maintain arousal and prevent complete dissipation of sexual tension. Avoid immediately intense genital stimulation, as the clitoris becomes extremely sensitive post-orgasm. Allow some time to pass, letting excitement levels settle. When both partners are ready for renewed stimulation, various methods can be employed: manual, oral, or other forms of stimulation. This is actually an optimal time for penetrative sex after she's had her first orgasm. In this sustained state of arousal, she's considerably more likely to experience subsequent orgasms. Let's venture into some more advanced territory. We're going to talk about techniques that sound almost too good to be true, but have fascinating roots in both urban legend and real possibility. First, let's address the legendary technique that originated in a 1986 episode of LA Law, a fictional technique that supposedly could induce continuous and extended orgasms. Over time, this evolved into an urban myth, but the principle behind it is actually quite real: skillful simultaneous stimulation of multiple erogenous zones. The fundamental approach involves three-way stimulation of the clitoris, vagina, and anal area. One method uses splayed hands where the thumb touches the clitoris, fingers are inserted into the vagina, and remaining fingers stimulate the anus, creating what some call a butterfly effect, with gentle opening and closing motions. Another technique combines oral stimulation of the clitoris while fingers work the internal areas and another hand engages other sensitive zones. While the effectiveness varies greatly between individuals, the key principles are valid: comprehensive stimulation and excellent communication. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you: the concept of extended orgasms. This involves maintaining yourself at the very edge of climax, and what we might call a level 9 out of 10 on the arousal scale, for extended periods. Here's how it works. Begin by building arousal to level 6, then bringing it back down to 2, staying mindful of where your attention is focused. Gradually increase the peaks and valleys: 7 down to 3, then 8 down to 4, 9 down to 5. The key is learning to take your foot off the accelerator without hitting the brake, lessening intensity without completely shutting down arousal. At level 9, you're at the very edge of orgasm. Initially, it may be challenging to release the tension, but with practice, you'll experience warm, tingling sensations spreading throughout your body. Unlike quick orgasms concentrated in the genitals, these create full-body sensations. The ultimate goal is maintaining level 9 indefinitely, staying at the highest peak of sexual tension your body can handle. Think of it like a bathtub where arousal trickles in at the same rate it drains out. If it trickles in slightly faster, you'll cross the threshold into orgasm. If it drains faster, you'll move away from the peak. If you're intrigued by the science and psychology behind pleasure and emotional intensity, Scoob's podcasts offer expert insights on intimacy and well-being. Download Scoob from the App Store or Play Store to discover more about the fascinating links between emotion, arousal, and everything in between. Returning to the A to Z's of orgasms, here's something that might completely change your perspective: the idea that intense emotional states can actually be forms of orgasmic experience. Consider this. Crying, laughing, or even experiencing intense anger can be physiologically similar to orgasm. By limiting our definition of orgasm to purely genital experiences, we restrict our understanding of the full spectrum of peak experiences available to us. Many women who believe they've never experienced a traditional orgasm have actually had what we might call gigglegasms, crygasms, or other intense emotional releases. The moment a woman realizes she has already experienced some form of peak release, she can begin to open herself to more expansive possibilities. There's fascinating evidence for this in the experiences of people with spinal cord injuries who have no feeling below the waist but can still experience orgasms. One sex therapist with paraplegia reports that while she has limited physical sensations, she can still achieve orgasms through stimulation of her remaining sensitive areas. Sometimes she feels these orgasms in her nipples, sometimes inside her head, both wonderful but distinct experiences. This demonstrates that orgasms primarily occur in the brain, with the pleasurable genital sensations being just one of many possible expressions of this neurological event. There are numerous neural pathways through which orgasmic energy travels to the brain. Understanding this opens up incredible possibilities. If orgasm is fundamentally a brain phenomenon, then we can potentially access it through various pathways: physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual. Some people report braingasms from intellectual breakthroughs, musical experiences, or moments of profound connection. This isn't to diminish the importance of physical pleasure, but rather to expand our understanding of the full spectrum of peak experiences available to us. When we remove arbitrary limitations on what constitutes real pleasure, we open ourselves to a much richer landscape of possibility. Let's talk about one of the most crucial and often overlooked aspects of sexual satisfaction: communication. Not just any communication, but what we call kitchen table sex talks. Intimate conversations about sex deliberately held in non-sexual settings. The purpose of these discussions is to maintain and enhance sexual satisfaction by addressing desires and issues in a neutral, positive environment. This ensures that these conversations don't create negative associations with the bedroom, which should remain a place for pleasure and excitement. These conversations can focus on positive topics for improving good sex or address specific challenges. When problem-solving, effective communication is crucial. Instead of saying, "You don't know how to turn me on," try, "I think it would help me get turned on if you..." This approach is constructive rather than critical. One particularly enriching topic for these talks is sexual fantasies. When partners share fantasies, it can introduce exciting new dimensions to their relationship. It's essential to create an environment where either partner can decline trying fantasies without judgment. To initiate fantasy conversations, try, "Do you have any fantasies you want to try out?" Or, "I have a fun idea. Let's share our secret sexual fantasies with each other." Sharing doesn't obligate action but can lead to fun, exploratory discussions. Here's something fascinating. There's an almost universally shared female fantasy that involves knowing her orgasm is important to her partner and that he's willing to do whatever it takes to help her achieve it. This underscores the importance of open discussion about needs outside the bedroom. For partners wanting to learn directly about stimulation techniques, expressing genuine curiosity can be both informative and arousing. "I'd love to watch you pleasure yourself while I take notes." Of course, consent is crucial, and boundaries must be respected. Another crucial conversation involves the phrase, "as long as it takes." When alone, achieving orgasm typically takes about 4 minutes, but with a partner it can range from 15 to 45 minutes, averaging around 20 minutes. If a partner dedicates 20 or more minutes to clitoral stimulation, approximately 92% of women are likely to orgasm. While 20 minutes might seem lengthy, consider the transformation. Instead of 2 out of 3 women being unable to climax, 9 out of 10 reach satisfaction. This isn't just about duration, it's about priority, attention, and genuine care for mutual pleasure. Now let's get practical. We've covered the theory, the anatomy, and the psychology. But how does this translate into real-world scenarios that actually work? There are essentially 2 types of women when it comes to reliable orgasms: those who experience the most dependable orgasms from a combination of penetration and clitoral stimulation, and those who find clitoral stimulation alone most effective. Importantly, some women in the second group report that penetration during clitoral stimulation can actually hinder their ability to orgasm. Let's explore some effective scenarios. The her first approach. Begin with extended foreplay to ensure adequate arousal and lubrication. Then focus entirely on her pleasure using whatever combination of tongue, hands, vibrator, or other methods work best for her specific needs. Only after she reaches orgasm do you move to activities focused on her partner's pleasure. This sequence works particularly well for women who need extensive clitoral stimulation. The simultaneous method. Some couples discover unique approaches that work for their specific dynamic. For example, beginning with penetration, then transitioning to using the penis to stimulate the clitoris while she guides the motion with her hand. This guarantees her orgasm and during her climax, re-entering for mutual completion. The extended plateau technique. This involves deliberately prolonging the arousal phase using edging techniques to maintain high arousal levels for extended periods. Instead of rushing toward orgasm, spend 15 to 20 minutes in the plateau phase, building intensity slowly and allowing for deeper, more satisfying climaxes. The communication-based approach. This involves direct learning through observation and instruction. Partners expressing genuine interest in learning specific techniques, asking questions, and receiving real-time feedback create an environment of exploration and discovery. Each approach recognizes that arousal and orgasm aren't one-size-fits-all experiences. The key is discovering what works for each individual and each relationship dynamic. It's also worth noting that some women require extensive arousal before any penetration feels comfortable or pleasurable. This often means ensuring thorough wetness and readiness, and sometimes incorporating lubrication even when aroused, as excitement doesn't always translate to adequate natural lubrication. Let's address something crucial: the pressure to orgasm and why it's counterproductive to satisfying sexual experiences. There's a pervasive notion that one's primary goal should be ensuring a partner's orgasm, but this mindset can be a significant contributor to unsatisfactory sexual experiences. Just as you don't sit down to a meal solely to anticipate dessert, adopting an orgasm-focused mindset for sex is equally problematic. When discussing pathways to orgasm, we can think of two approaches: the high road and the low road. The quality of an orgasm often depends on the intensity of arousal leading up to it. High arousal naturally results in more satisfying orgasms, like a delicious dessert following an unforgettable meal. Conversely, it's entirely possible to achieve orgasm with minimal arousal, relying merely on proper mechanical stimulation. However, these low-road orgasms often feel unfulfilling and can leave someone with a lingering sense of emptiness. Sometimes low-road orgasms happen out of resignation. I won't get more excited than this, so let's just finish. While these quick, friction-based orgasms can offer temporary relief or help with sleep, relying on them frequently isn't advisable. It's better to skip the metaphorical dessert if it means forcing climax without genuine arousal. If someone isn't sufficiently aroused, expecting a partner to guarantee orgasm isn't fair to either person involved. If release is necessary, self-stimulation in a partner's presence can be highly erotic when done appropriately, but this should remain secondary activity, the dessert, not the main course. This perspective highlights the complex and personal nature of sexual satisfaction. Some people argue that orgasms aren't merely afterthoughts but integral components of sexual fulfillment, qualifying as a main course in their own right. Understanding and respecting these individual differences is crucial. The key is removing performance pressure while maintaining genuine care and attention. When we focus on the entire journey of arousal, connection, and pleasure rather than just the destination, we create space for more authentic and satisfying experiences. Let's explore a fascinating aspect of human sexuality that often goes unexamined: the sounds and expressions that emerge during intense pleasure and their surprising universality across cultures. The vocalizations during orgasm are often spontaneous and instinctual, revealing something profound about human nature. Across different cultures, people tend to express remarkably similar sentiments during climax. Individuals from Japan, India, France, and England frequently mention dying or call out for their mothers at peak moments. Some invoke religious sentiments regardless of their personal beliefs. This association of orgasm with spirituality makes sense when you consider that many people describe their most intense climaxes as the most spiritual moments of their lives. There's something transcendent about the experience that connects us to something larger than ourselves. The range of vocal expressions is extensive and highly individual. Some people growl or utter aggressive sounds, while others make bird-like calls or various sounds just short of coherent speech. Some cultures have even classified these sounds. Ancient Indian texts compared them to bird cries, highlighting the cultural significance of sexual expression. Understanding a partner's vocal expressions requires sensitivity and attention. It's crucial to distinguish between sounds that mean stop and those that mean continue. Some people are naturally very vocal, while others prefer to be quieter. Some might even need to muffle their sounds in certain living situations. Interestingly, many people experience conflict about vocalizing during sex due to social conditioning from childhood, where such expressions were often discouraged. Creating an environment where vocal expression is welcomed and accepted can significantly enhance the experience for both partners. The key is early communication about preferences. Expressing that vocalization is welcome can help someone feel more at ease, while discussing any expressions that might be distracting can guide the experience toward mutual satisfaction. This vocal dimension of sexuality reminds us that pleasure engages our entire being, physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual. When we embrace this totality rather than compartmentalizing sexual experience, we open ourselves to deeper, more fulfilling connections. Let's delve into one of the most important concepts for understanding sexual satisfaction: the difference between spontaneous and responsive desire, and why this knowledge can be revolutionary for sexual relationships. Traditionally, we've assumed that healthy sexual desire should emerge spontaneously, that feeling of wanting sex that seems to come out of nowhere. This is indeed how many men experience desire, and it was mistakenly believed that women should experience the same pattern. However, research reveals that while some women do experience spontaneous desire, many others experience what's called responsive desire. This type of desire emerges in response to erotic stimuli or situations rather than appearing spontaneously. There's absolutely nothing wrong or dysfunctional about responsive desire, it's simply a different pathway to sexual interest. Understanding this difference can be transformative for relationships. If someone with responsive desire feels pressured to experience spontaneous urges, they might conclude there's something wrong with them. Similarly, if their partner doesn't understand responsive desire, they might interpret the lack of spontaneous interest as rejection or lack of attraction. The reality is that responsive desire can lead to incredibly satisfying sexual experiences. It just requires a different approach, creating the right context, atmosphere, and stimulation for desire to emerge naturally. This connects to our earlier discussion of arousal non-concordance. For many women, physical arousal, like vaginal lubrication, doesn't necessarily correspond directly to mental arousal or desire. Someone might be mentally interested but not yet physically aroused, or they might show physical signs of arousal before feeling mentally engaged. This is completely normal and doesn't indicate dysfunction. It simply means that arousal and desire are more complex processes than we often assume. Understanding this can remove pressure and create space for more natural, organic sexual experiences to unfold. The key insight is that there's no single right way to experience desire or arousal. Some people have spontaneous desire, others have responsive desire, and many experience both at different times. Some people have strong concordance between mental and physical arousal, others don't. All of these patterns are normal variations in human sexuality. When we understand and accept these differences, we can work with our natural patterns rather than against them, leading to more satisfying and authentic sexual experiences. As we reach the climax of our journey through the landscape of female pleasure, let's take a moment to consolidate what we've discovered. We've learned that female sexuality is far more complex, nuanced, and capable than mainstream culture typically acknowledges. We've discovered that the clitoris is a remarkable organ with 8,000 nerve endings existing purely for pleasure, and that it's part of a larger network of erectile tissue that's mostly internal. We've explored how arousal happens in stages, why the plateau phase is so important, and how extending time in that phase can lead to more satisfying experiences. We've discovered why clitoral stimulation is crucial for most women, and why penetration alone works for only about 30% of women. Not because anything is wrong with the other 70%, but because of simple anatomy and biology. We've learned about the possibility of multiple orgasms, the importance of communication, the role of fantasy, and the reality that pleasure comes in many forms, some physical, some emotional, some even spiritual. Perhaps most importantly, we've learned that there's no single right way to experience pleasure. Some women prefer clitoral stimulation alone, others enjoy combining it with penetration. Some experience spontaneous desire, others have responsive desire. Some are very vocal during pleasure, others are quieter. Some reach orgasm quickly, others need more time. All of these variations are normal, healthy, and valid. The key to sexual satisfaction isn't following a universal script. It's understanding your own body and desires, communicating clearly with partners, and creating an environment where exploration and pleasure can flourish without pressure or judgment. Remember that sexual satisfaction is a skill that can be developed through understanding, practice, and communication. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you can cultivate and improve throughout your life. Whether you're exploring solo or with partners, the principles remain the same. Curiosity over judgment, communication over assumption, patience over pressure, and pleasure over performance. The landscape of pleasure is vast and varied, with new territories to explore throughout your lifetime. What we've covered today is just the beginning of what's possible when we approach sexuality with knowledge, openness, and genuine care for ourselves and our partners. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Pleasure University. Remember, you have the right to pleasure, the capacity for incredible experiences, and the power to create the sexual life you desire. Now go forth and explore with confidence, knowledge, and joy. Until next time, this is your host, Zoya Sinclair, inviting you to remember: pleasure is your birthright, satisfaction is a skill you can master, and the greatest adventures in intimacy are still waiting to unfold. Let your curiosity lead the way. Download Scoob from the App Store or Play Store and turn every day into a journey of discovery.